Hello and welcome back in, you guys. We got the post-game show for One Piece, chapter 1151. Just in case you're new here or in case you do not know how this works, I like to go through the comment section of the latest spoiler video to see what everybody was talking about in regards to this latest chapter. What are the main takeaways? What are the opinions? What are the theories? We're here to find that out. So with that being said, let's get right into it with the top comment, which says, "This will be the arc where Luffy finally understands how to utilize the voice of all things. I think that is what was used for Luffy to specifically sense Chopper. This is off topic, but when it states that Sanji specializes in observation haki in the SBS, I interpreted it as out of the three hakis, that is just what he was best at after the time skip. Same with Zoro's armament haki and Luffy's conquerors. It doesn't necessarily mean his observation haki is better than Luffy's. I've been seeing a lot of people surprised Luffy sensed something Sanji couldn't." I agree. In regards to the SBS, I think I have the same takeaway there. But how I also view it is that out of all of the Straw Hats, if there were to be somebody close to Luffy in observation haki, it would be Sanji. Just like how Zoro would be closest to Luffy in terms of armament. But that's just my takeaway, and it's really hard with these SBSs too, because that SBS was a long time ago, right? Like you said, that was post-time skip. But hear me out, post-time skip started over 10 years ago. So at some point, some of these SBSs start feeling a little bit dated, so I wonder how he would answer that same question today, right? I think that's kind of what I'm like looking forward to. And I think overall though, Luffy, this shouldn't be a hot take, but I do believe that Luffy will be head and shoulders above the entirety of the crew in terms of haki by the end of story, right? End of story Luffy, I think is just going to be insane, but of course I do think Sanji and Zoro in their specialties will be close-ish to Luffy. So as far as the voice of all things, I really do hope that Luffy starts understanding what it actually is, because we, the audience, still do not know what it is exactly. Like, oh, there's an object over there? Well, you can hear it. And also, you see those fish over there? You can hear them too. It's like, how does this actually work? And also, I still am wondering, how does Pudding's third eye awakening relate to that as well? Because when Pudding awakens her third eye, whatever the hell that means, she just gains the ability to read poneglyphs. So it sounds like that could be the vision of all things, and then this is the voice of all things. I'm not too sure, but I do think that once we hit the Heaven Realm, once we meet another character who specializes in the voice of all things, we'll finally get some freaking answers. Now that I think about it, since Scopper sailed with Roger, who had the voice of all things and who learned the true history of the world, shouldn't Scopper be the one who teaches Luffy what this is? Like, hey, Luffy, that thing you just heard? Yeah, you know, Roger, let me tell you all about it. He went through the exact same thing you're going through right now. Like, I feel like that could be such a natural transition into the voice of all things and that whole conversation. But we'll see, right? It's like one of those things like Rayleigh. Like, Rayleigh knew all the answers. He knew everything about the world, and he could have told us back in Sabaody, but we turned him down. You know, will this be one of those moments where we're next to a character who's simply filled to the brim with knowledge that we, the audience, desire, but Luffy, being Luffy, just will not open that door? It's kind of like back in Wano, right? Frankie and the Straw Hats were like, hey, Luffy, Pluton's here. Do you want it? And Luffy's like, nah, let's just keep on going. I don't need an ancient weapon. It's like, dude, at least look at it, Luffy, please. And then Egghead. Oh, dude, now you opened the bag, brother. Egghead. Remember when Robin was reading the newspaper and she was like, hey, Luffy, this newspaper talks about people that you know. Do you want to hear about it? And Luffy's like, no, I don't want to hear about it. If it's really important, tell me, but I'm good. It's like, what do you mean? Luffy, you're sailing to an island and it takes 3 days to get there. Just listen for 5 minutes, please. I think that is enough ranting for one day. Still love the series, but let me tell you, man, if I was in One Piece, I'd be taking that information, brother. On to the comment right down below. They say, Loki telling Harald to kneel down to him while he's chained if he wants to know more is diabolical. It really is, huh? Yeah, Loki really knows how to poke that nerve. And, you know, it's another one of those things where it's like, dude, Loki could just straight up drop the King Harald flashback. But he doesn't. And I can't even blame Harald. I really can't. Kneeling down to your younger brother who supposedly killed your father while he's already taller than you too. Like, you gotta take the height into consideration. I mean, Loki's like this big, Harden's like this big, brother. Like, kneeling down? Oh, no. Pride, gone. Absolutely gone if he does that. This comment says the cat piece is real. Yeah, dude. The cats are everywhere. I have 5 of them. I got 5 cats, and sometimes they're just all over in the background, sitting in my chair, slapping my camera. It is the best and the worst. So this comment right here, they say, native Japanese-English speaker here. Something that would have been lost in translation in regards to Mosa is that when he was talking to Loki on the Dendenmushi, he was talking in a very polite form of Japanese, meaning he clearly saw Loki as his superior and someone to be respected. Whether the owl can speak human language or not yet is to be seen. But I can imagine him also talking very politely, so that definitely fits the description. Yeah, I still like the owl as Mosa theory, simply because that is the only theory I can come up with. You know, rather than just saying that Mosa is a mysterious character we haven't met yet, I would put my money on the owl, more so than the other theories I've seen out there right now. And as far as the proper manner of speaking, right, I think that will play some importance as well, because while it could mean that Mosa respects Loki, which shouldn't be shocking, right, Loki still is the Prince of Elbaf, it could also just mean that Mosa is nobility, or maybe they could just be a fellow aristocrat. We don't know yet. You know, that's the tough part. And I feel like a lot of people are locking in their answers because we all know that the Mosa reveal is around the corner. So this one says, Sai growing out the full Lord Farquaad. Great video yet again. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, the hair's getting long. I mean, there's a reason why I'm wearing the hat today. I'm having a bad hair day, just got out of the shower. But yeah, got to put on the hat right here. I don't want to fix it, right? It's too late at night for that. It's already breaking the fourth wall. It is 5:52 a.m. while I'm recording this. I mean, hell, any minute now, you're going to see the sun come up. That's how crazy this is. Oda wants us to think Mosa is Jarl. It is not. Mosa is Koala from the Revolutionary Army. Loki likely told her he got attacked by Holy Knights, or she overheard that conversation in silence about Gunko and Shamrock demanding him to join the Holy Knights, and Loki refused. Koala bears are shaggy, as the translation of Mosa suggests. She told Loki of her time as a slave of the Celestial Dragons. Remember when Loki said he would have slaughtered whoever traumatized Mosa? Well, this sets that up on how Loki will fight to destroy the WG. Few chapters later, Shamrock gets called back because the Holy Land is in flames. Koala gave intel to Dragon that the Holy Knights have mobilized on Elbaf. The goodbye phone call to Loki happens just before Emu's arrival on Elbaf, so in my opinion, the timeline matches up perfectly. I don't think it's bad. I don't think the Koala theory is bad at all. I feel like you covered pretty much all your bases. It's pretty nice, actually. But I just don't feel it, though. You know, it's one of those things where, like, everything fits, right? But I don't feel it right now. If I had to put a reason why, I guess it kind of just goes back to how Koala got the Dendenmushi here in the first place, right? This feels so odd. Like, there's a Dendenmushi in Elbaf that somehow ended up in the underworld next to the world-renowned giant monster Loki. Like, that just feels too convenient. Unless the Revs came to Elbaf before, and Koala just so happened to really bond with Loki, and she left a Dendenmushi here and didn't free him or something. Like, I just feel like there's too many odd things about that right now that I'm just not really feeling the vibe. I think overall it's a good theory. Like I said, I do think you covered a lot of your bases here, but I'm not truly sold yet. And then, of course, when it comes to the dialogue we got in this chapter, Loki says something really odd to me, at least, where he says, "Oh, don't tell me that nasty business really cropped up again, did it?" And it's like, would Koala's business be nasty business? I feel like since she's a freedom fighter, Loki wouldn't describe her situation like that. It almost seems like something's happening to them rather than Koala doing something to someone else. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't think Koala fits right now, but I do think they could have Revolutionary Army ties. Like I said, it could be a brand new character in the RA. Like, we met, like, what, 4 or 5 new ones out of nowhere a couple chapters back? Okay, I say a couple chapters back. You know, back in Egghead, we met these sub-commanders, right? Ahiru, Gamba, Ushiano, and there was one more. Giron. Yeah, Giron. I remember Giron because it's just like Jiren, but I know that they're nothing alike, right? And I look at those sub-army commanders, and I'm like, yo, are they going to be important? Because I have no clue. Bro really did room shambles with his cat. Yeah, that was a good transition, you gotta admit. This one says, I think Observation Haki is the way to damage the Holy Knights. I think they're in a different realm, and Observation Haki allows them to see the Holy Knights who are in alternate dimensions - realms they're projecting from. Also, Luffy seemed to see it was Chopper who fell down, but Usopp kind of already proved that he could do that in Dressrosa by seeing Luffy and Law exactly. Could be cool that Usopp was already that advanced and just didn't know it. Him shooting Gunko earlier could be foreshadowing of him actually defeating one of them with the haki I talked about in the beginning. Would be awesome to find out he was already so far ahead of everybody without even knowing it. Yes, and the reason I like this, and I agree with this as well, you know, I've talked about this before, but in Film Red, which was partially written by Oda, but also written by Oda's editors who know the ending of One Piece, we saw something really interesting, right? We had the red-haired pirates and the Straw Hat Pirates, plus Katakuri. That was a really weird add-in. Yeah, Katakuri was just there with the red-haired pirates. So odd. Either way, the red-haired pirates and the Straw Hat Pirates, they were working together in different dimensions and fought Taut Musica. And the only way to damage Taut Musica was to do exactly what you said right here, right? You damage the real body that's in a different dimension. So the Straw Hat Pirates and the Red-Haired Pirates, they linked up and they attacked simultaneously, and that is how they ended up putting that giant musical demon back to rest. And Usopp, believe it or not, was the main character on the Straw Hat side who was able to help link them all up too, because of his observation haki. So I would not be shocked if Usopp and Luffy, and maybe even Sanji, right? If we want to throw Sanji in there, I wouldn't be surprised if they are the first ones who are able to do this. If I had to put an ordering on it, I would love it if Usopp did it first, accidentally, and then Luffy, and then maybe Sanji. Sanji's a weird one, because it's like, you know, I do believe he will be a master of observation, but I don't think he's gonna get that shine here in Elbaf, or at least right now. Like, maybe after he has a couple of conversations with Scopper, sure, but I'm not too sure if Oda wants to prioritize Sanji right here and now. I would love it though, don't get me wrong. You know, when it comes to the Straw Hats getting upgrades, I'm all for it. No matter who it is, it could be Chopper, Frankie, Brook, Jinbei. I gobble up upgrades like no other, brother. So yeah, I like this. I do think that the alternate dimension theory is not bad. I think we will definitely see that in the future. And like I said, I think Film Red has a lot of nuggets that will end up becoming true. I don't know if you guys follow Sandman over on Twitter, but apparently Sandman tweeted out that during a special Japanese-only Film Red showing, Oda, who was there, actually commented and said that a demon like Taut Musica actually exists in the world of One Piece, but he hasn't drawn it yet. You know, whether Sandman was speaking the truth there or not, I do think that is really interesting, and I would not be shocked if that was actually true, right? In every single One Piece movie, there's always nuggets of something that Oda wants to make canon later on. In Ivankov's introduction chapter of 537, Eva dances on stage with some of his underlings. The three on the left, Ivankov's right, have similarities with the three Godites present on Elbaf. The first one has a rose on his chest like Somers, the second is dressed as a four-legged horned animal similar to Killingham, possibly a deer or elk, and the third has a black hat with goggles like Gunko. In a vacuum, I'd say it is just a coincidence. However, Eva is the ruler of hell. People get taken in and transformed by him, and the rumor that has spawned was that people are being taken and transformed into demons. Yes, they called it demoning away. Crazy term. Eva was the person who revealed Imu's identity to us, and Eva has arrows as a component of his design. And in Eva's introduction chapter, a prince of a kingdom confronts Eva and accuses him of transforming his father, the king, into a woman 14 years ago. 16 years in post-time skip, Harald was killed 15 years ago. The prince complains that he was a prince, but now he's just a pirate. If King Harald was transformed into a demon, this would parallel Harden and Loki almost one for one. The prince who confronted Eva was then turned himself. Dark times ahead for these Elbaf brothers. Yes, I like this a lot. You know, I've been peddling the Impel Down narrative for a while now. I didn't even think about this. You know, this is brand new to me, but I do think there are a lot of parallels between Impel Down and the Holy Knights, and even the world government, right? We first had Sommers using the Crimson Thorn ability, which is a callback to level 1 of Impel Down. Level 2 is the Weird Beast, Strange Beast Hell. And what do we have? We have Strange Beasts roaming Elbaf because of Killingham. And then in level 3, that is where we met Syvduck. Syvduck had the little, you know, demon pitchfork. He was playing it like a flute. And not to mention, he had the arrow tail. You know, he had the wings. He had the blue gory army. And that's kind of like Gunko-Emu, right? That is what they're doing. The flute-horn, of course, goes to Killingham here. But you guys see what I mean, right? So bringing this up right here, like you said, in a vacuum, this is hogwash. In a vacuum, I look at this and be like, that's a coincidence. But I don't think it is. I definitely don't think it is. And I think we will get some of this down here coming true. I would not be shocked if King Harald actually was a demon that was turned by Emu. And I wouldn't be shocked if one of the brothers, if not both, get turned into monsters as well. If I had to pick between Loki or Harden getting turned into a demon, though, I would really want Harden to become that guy. Harden, of course, is filled with malice towards Loki. Loki killed their father, so maybe Harden will be easy to snap and switch. And of course, you know, I've been memeing about it, but Harden really is short compared to Loki. Like, when they fight, it's not a fair fight. Even in their childhood, it wasn't a fair fight. Harden could never beat his younger brother. Maybe Emu, you know, the guy who can turn giants 10 times their size, can put them on an equal playing field. I think that'd be a really interesting matchup. Loki on one side fighting for good, and then Harden on the other side fighting for evil against his will. And maybe it's through that fight where they become brothers - good friends again, because I really want that to happen. You know, I don't have a brother. I'm an only child, but I wish I did. And if I did, I'd want to be really good friends with them. I'd want them to be my brother. So I kind of feel bad that Harden and Loki have such a strained relationship, and I hope they fix it, right? I just think back to that King Harald panel that we got from Loki's flashback, his minor flashback, where King Harald looked at Loki and Harden and he said, hey, you know, when I'm gone, I really want both of you to protect Elbaf. And guess what? They want to protect Elbaf, but they're not on the same page. They're not working together. So hopefully, you know, this does all go down. Hopefully, after a fight or two, they make up and they save Elbaf together. I think that's my ideal, right? Harden and Loki doing a Hakuoku sovereignty against Emu. Will it work? I don't know, but I think it would be a really epic panel and payoff. Luffy's observation haki is crazy fire. Yes, it is. I still remember back in, what was it, Fishman Island? One of my favorite things was back in Fishman Island when Caribou was kidnapping mermaids. Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji all sensed it right away. They're like, hey, there's a beast here, guys. Like, I thought that was so epic. I don't know why, dude. Just having the monster trio all acknowledge the same thing, that was cool. But yeah, Luffy's observation, insane. Kid is going to go full Vegeta and be turned by Emu, replacing Gunko after our Nakama frees her. Are you suggesting that Kid is going to become a Holy Knight? I think that's what you mean here, right? Kid is going to go full Vegeta and get turned by Emu, replacing Gunko after our Nakama frees her. Kid getting turned, I like the idea. I do. You know, he's another character, kind of like Harden. He has a chip on his shoulder. Him getting turned, I think, would be great. But hopefully it's like Vegeta, where he's turned, but he's not really turned, right? Because in Dragon Ball Z, Vegeta only did it to fight Goku. He wanted a good reason to fight Goku. And guess what? When Vegeta didn't want to be a Majin anymore, he simply said, F that, I'm gonna go kill Babidi now, I'm done, right? So hopefully Kid's the same way, because let me tell you, man, If Kid was fully controlled and became a holy knight, the slander just would not stop. It'd be an endless freaking barrage. But I'm glad you did bring up Kid here, because I keep on saying this. I yell this from the rooftops every single week. But Eustace Captain Kidd is technically here in Elbaf. If he's not dead, he's here in Elbaf, right? Because he was last seen off the coast. He literally saw the giant fish that the Straw Hats saw. Like, there's no way that he's anywhere else, right? People are saying, oh, Kid washed ashore to a different island. It's like, how is that even possible? If Kid would wash ashore to an island, it would be Elbaf because he's less than a mile out. So yeah, hopefully Kid is here. Maybe Kid is going to go full Vegeta. Maybe he gets turned into a demon. Or maybe Kid's going to be our savior. Imagine that. You know how crazy that would be? Imagine if while the Straw Hats are going up the lift, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Harald, and Loki, Kid is already there. They show up to the Sun Realm, they go after Emu, killing him and Sommers, but they're too late because Kid, Heat, Wire, and Killer have already defeated the Holy Knights. Yeah, it's like Kid fanfiction right there. That's not gonna happen, but a brother can dream, right? A brother can dream. I just want to see Kid use Conqueror's Haki once. Kaido said it. Kaido said Kid had Conqueror's Haki, but guess what? We, the audience, have never seen it. It's like a majestic rumor, right? It's like a friend saying, hey, that guy over there, he's a millionaire. And then you look over at the guy, and he's high off the fentanyl, dude. He's over here, bent over on the side of the road, and it's like, him? That guy? He's a millionaire? I don't see it. I want to believe that Kid will be a conqueror. That Kid is that conqueror. He hasn't shown anything yet, man. He just really hasn't, and it sucks. The reason I'm so passionate about this, by the way, is because I don't know how many of you guys were reading One Piece weekly back in Sabaody, but when Kid was first introduced, there wasn't a motherfucker out there that didn't think that Kid was that guy. A character with a higher bounty than Luffy? Shaggy said that he was evil? He's over here brutalizing islands? Oh man, he was crazy. And then of course, he had Killer. Killer also had a higher bounty than Zoro. Like, we looked at those two characters and we said, yo, these guys are the bee's knees. And now look at him, man. Now look at him. You can't say Kid in public without getting laughed at. So yeah, I do want a Kid come back. And that right there was my second rant of the night. So, going right down below, they say maybe the reason Luffy knows that it's Chopper who fell down into the underworld is not observation haki, but the voice of all things. Yeah, that could be it. I guess for me, the reason why I didn't automatically go to the voice of all things is simply because Loki kind of sensed it too, right? Loki in this chapter, he says, oh, like, yeah, people fell in that direction. They're right across the ridge. And it's like, all right, like, we know Loki has future sight haki. We know that Loki specializes almost in observation haki because he's blindfolded. So what are we saying here, right? Could it be that Loki's observation haki is that cracked? Or are we saying that Loki also has the voice of all things, which I don't think would be super shocking. Throwing Loki out there for a minute, just want to pipe him up. But Loki was potentially depicted in the mural alongside Sun God Nika, and they're fighting Emu, right? So if Loki really is going to be that important of a character, sure, give him the voice of all things. I think that'd be pretty fair, especially since he claims himself that he is the sun god. All right, he's putting himself at that level already. So yeah, maybe he does have the voice of all things too, but until we get more information, I'm gonna play it safe, and I'm just gonna say it's observation haki. I think there's nothing wrong with believing that it's the voice of all things. I think that's very fair. There's nothing to disprove it, but there's also nothing to disprove that it's just observation haki, but at a more advanced level, of course. Loki's laugh may answer what fruit he has. Dog, ha ha ha. He may have a mythical dog Zoan, Fenrir. Plus, walls in the throne room had claw marks where he killed his father. I like that. I always loved the Fenrir idea, especially because in mythology, Fenrir was also chained up for the most part, right? And Fenrir even had a little tiff with Tyr, who is supposed to be the One Piece version of Shanks, right? Redhead character missing an arm. It's all right there. The only reason why I'm not super sold on this idea anymore, though, is because we already saw the Kid Nightmare version of Fenrir here on Elbaf, right? When Killingham first used his ability, we saw Fenrir versus Saul, and I feel like that right there took a lot of the wind out of my sails. It's like, oh, Oda already used the Fenrir design. Will he actually bring it up again? And it's Loki's Devil Fruit? That's what I'm getting kind of hung up at, but I still like the idea. I think a mythical dog Zoan Fenrir would go super hard, and maybe it even has a different design from what we saw with Fenrir versus Saul, right? There is that possibility, but as far as the claw marks in the throne room, that could be from Loki, of course, or, going back to the comment a while back, let me see, it's all the way up here. Maybe Harald was a demon. Maybe the claw marks were from King Harald's demon transformation. That could also be it. This comment says, Harald and stocks are about to go up in the next chapter when it is revealed that he has been training like Rock Lee with those forearm weights he wears. Harald and stocks. I haven't always been the biggest fan of Harden, but you would never catch me ever saying that I'm not investing in Harden stocks. The minute Harden, back in Dressrosa, said that he was going to be king of the giants, I believed him. And here in this chapter, brother, when Oda showed all the crew reacting to Imu's haki, let me tell you, man, Harden's panel, it was the same size as Luffy and Loki's panel. There ain't no way Harden is not about to show up. And that is why I want him to become a demon. Give him a power. I think Harden, if he did not train like Rock Lee, I do think he needs some sort of power up. Maybe Imu uses Domi Reversi. Hell, maybe Luffy hits him with some sort of Sun God Nika power up. Or maybe Bonnie does it. Right, Bonnie is able to tap into different timelines. She can age herself up and down. She can do that for other people. If Bonnie awakens, who's to say that she cannot transform Harden into a stronger version of himself? A Sun God Nika version. I think that'd be sick. And of course, that would be very fitting for a giant, right? The giants love Sun God Nika. You can't tell me that the giants do not have a Sun God Nika form somewhere deep in there. I think Mosa could be a new character in the Holy Land, possibly a God Knight, but I like the owl theory. Also, I think Imu will Domi Reversi Loki to become a God Knight because that was a part of the God Knight's original mission to bring him in. I don't think that's bad. It depends how Domi Reversi works. Like, when you use Domi Reversi on Dorian Brogy, for example, are they just going to be permanently like that? Or at some point will Domi Reversi wear off, right? Because the thing is that the minute Domi Reversi wears off, if it does, Dorian Brogy are going to go back to fighting Imu. And the same goes for Loki, right? Would you really want a God Knight who could just flip sides any minute of the day? I wouldn't want that, right? It's like a ticking time bomb. But, of course, there is Gunko, and Gunko's a weird one because she is that exact character I just described, right? She's a ticking time bomb. At any moment, her memories could come back, and she could fight against the WG. But we don't even know the whole context on that, right? But yeah, I do like the Domi Reversi theory. Whether it's on Loki or Harden, I do want one person on the Straw Hat side to get turned into a demon. And of course, Dorian Brogy were already turned, but I'm looking at the characters we have left on the board, right? Turn the Straw Hats into demons. Turn Loki or Harden into demons. Hell, turn Bonnie into a demon. I'm down for it. I want some infighting here, and I think it'd be a lot of fun to see what kind of demons they actually turn into. Because we have to remember that when Imu used Domi Reversi on Brogy and these giants, it was the Quarrel contract. So Imu must have more contracts out there with other demons, so there's more forms we could potentially see out of Domi Reversi. But that's just my theory. Get this, Scopper and Chopper might be brothers in a way, because I think that Scopper is Dr. Kureha's son. She in fact was also a dual-wielding blade user. Also, Scopper looks damn near just like her at his old age. They even have the same type of glasses. Scopper and Chopper, These names don't sound the same for no reason. I agree. So the thing is, I've seen the Dr. Kureha Scopper theories before, and I don't dislike them. Yeah, I think they do fit the bill pretty well. And of course, Dr. Kureha knows about the Will of D. She was the very first character in the entire series who said, oh, you know, the Will of D lives on, huh? When she saw Luffy. So yeah, like if that is Scopper's mom, maybe Scopper told her about it, right? After Scopper went around the world, saw all the poneglyphs, saw Joy Boy's treasure, maybe he told his mom. Wouldn't be super shocking. I think this is one of those fun theories that I don't know if Oda will ever confirm. It's kind of like how in the most recent Vivre card in SBS, Oda dropped Queen's Vivre card and straight up said that Queen has a kid and that this kid should be about this old. And it just so happens to fit alongside Frankie's timeline and how Frankie was abandoned as a kid and his parents were pirates. And it's like, yo, what is going on here? And then you have the whole dancing thing. You know, Frankie does the dance, Queen does the dance. They're both kind of perverts. And it's like, brother, is Queen Frankie's dad? Everything's there that points to it, but Oda has not said anything about it. Will he ever? We don't know. And it could be the same for this, right? I think there are a lot of things that could say that Scopper and Kureha have that connection, but will Oda actually come out and say it though? No clue. But yeah, I think this is a fun theory though. I think I do like this a lot. And it's just one of those things that, like, if it's true, we don't really need it to be confirmed ever, right? It's just one of those fun details for us, the audience. And the Straw Hats might just never ask, like, hey, Scopper, who's your mom? Or maybe Scopper's like, hey, Chopper, who's that old lady you were raised with, right? But yeah, either way, I like this theory. I think it is a 10 out of 10. It's a feel-good thing too, right? It's very feel-good knowing that Chopper is still being looked after Dr. Kureha in some way. Sai, would you consider making a series like One Piece 1152 Predictions, where you try to guess what the next chapter is going to be like? Maybe. I don't think that's a bad idea. I've actually done this a couple of times already in the past, but my problem is, one, the timing, right? Like, when would I drop the video? Maybe like Sunday, you know, right before spoilers. But also, I don't want to get too redundant, right? I talk about One Piece chapters, one specific chapter, multiple times in a week. Like, let me just break it down for a second, right? We have the hints for the chapter. We have the brief spoilers. We have the full spoilers. We have the chapter review video, post-game discussion on this channel, post-game discussion on my main channel. I have a collab with Par, and then a collab with Brago, and that's all for one chapter. That is 8 videos over one chapter. I'm afraid if I make a 9th video, it's gonna get too repetitive, but maybe, right? Even if it's predictions on like what's happening next, I feel like I kind of covered my bases here, but we'll see. I don't know. I do like the bingo ideas. Somebody down here said bingo, right? Maybe that would be fun. Maybe like for the video, we do 10 guesses. 10 guesses, and every week we could revisit that and see how many we got right. Actually, maybe we do this. You know, wait a minute. The bingo idea sounds fun. Wait, yeah, a bingo card. You know what? I think you guys cooked. I might do this. Let me know. Would you guys want another One Piece video in the week? Because if so, I'll make the time. But I just gotta know that it's gonna be like, you know, well received and it's not too crazy, right? I don't want to spam the inbox per se. But yeah, I like that. Oda blue balling us with the break next week. I love it. Yeah. I mean, hey, better now than last week, right? Better now than the Emu reveal chapter. I'm good with this one. Killingham having 2 man beast forms is crazy. Emu is taking all the restrictions off. Yeah, I mean, the thing is too, is that I don't think it's super crazy that it is 2 man beast forms, especially since it's transforming different parts of his body, right? The first form, it really only transformed his upper half, and now his other form is just his bottom half. Instead of Emu taking off his limiters per se, I think it's more so that Killingham has great control over his Zoan Devil Fruit. And the clouds he has around his forms too, I'm pretty sure that means that he's awakened. I say pretty sure because we have no real confirmation yet on what that actually even is. Because Yamato, for example, has those same clouds when she goes hybrid form. And we don't know if she's awakened. It wouldn't be bad. I feel like Yamato is such a high tier character. If you told me she was awakened, I'd believe you. But Oda just never confirmed it yet, right? And then, of course, we had Rob Lucci with the clouds, Kaku with the clouds, all the Gorosei have the clouds, but they're like weird demons and not exactly Zoans. Luffy has the clouds, but he's awakened. It's such a mixed bag, but I guess I'll just pose the question to you guys, actually. Do you think Killingham is awakened? I will lean towards yes. Not just because of the clouds, but simply because I want these opponents to be strong, right? We're in the final saga. There's not a lot of fights left for the Straw Hats. Think about this for a minute. How many more opponents do you think Zoro is gonna get? Luffy, Sanji, Usopp, Frankie, right? Like, think about all the Straw Hats. There's not a lot of fights left in the story for them. So I want their final fights to be against heavy hitters, against people who mastered their craft, right? That is what I want personally. You know, I don't want to end the series of One Piece and look at Frankie's final fight, for example, and say, oh yeah, Frankie's final fight. Oh yeah, he fought a bum. The guy Frankie fought at the end of story, man, that guy couldn't use haki. What a loser, right? Big W's for Frankie. Like, it wouldn't feel right. I'd rather look at Frankie's final fight and say, yo, Frankie did it. Frankie beat a monster. How did Frankie do it? Oh my God, isn't that cool? You know, that is the feeling I want coming off of One Piece, but maybe that's just me, right? I just don't want to fight losers. So yeah, Killingham having two-man beast forms, Killingham being awakened. Hey, I'm rooting for it, man. I think what's different with this demonstration of observation haki is actually knowing who you're detecting specifically instead of just detecting someone. Yeah, and now that you mention it, it's not super shocking anymore. You know, after going through all these comments, it's not super shocking that Luffy got this ability, you know, got this upgrade to his observation haki. Because back in Wano, when Shanks did the drive-by walkie firing against Green Bull, Luffy did say that haki felt familiar, right? That's like a hint for this. You know, Luffy felt Chopper's haki, or felt Chopper's presence, and he said, oh yeah, that's familiar, it's Chopper. So I do think Oda foreshadowed this a good amount. I guess for me, I'm an idiot, but I always assumed that was the case. You know, I always assumed that Luffy could just distinctively pick up Straw Hat members based on their haki and based on their presence. But I guess that's never happened, huh? It's like that weird thing where like you kind of retcon things in your own brain. It's like, no, like surely Luffy did that before, but I guess not. Yeah, Luffy is, you know, mastering that observation. All right, but with that being said though, guys, thank you so much for being here. I really freaking appreciate it. Sorry we couldn't go on a little bit longer, but it is now like well in the morning. You see the sun is up. I told you, man, watch the video. Sundown to sunrise. The dawn is coming. The D is here. But again, thank you guys for staying until the end of the video. I really freaking appreciate the support, the likes, and all the comments, man. It really means a lot. And I will see you guys in the 11:52 bingo card video. Stay safe till then, sleep well, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace out.